And all the people who began to collect to him because of the miracles he was doing, the things he was doing, and the Pharisees who were following with a different agenda, and they were looking to critique and find fault in everything that he was doing. So everywhere he went, there were people there for various reasons. Some were there learning and trying to see where he was going, and others were there critiquing to see what he was doing. And as he began to go, the crowd became bigger and bigger and bigger. And so we see from chapter 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 that at chapter 7, he is now coming into the city with a large crowd. Some of them disciples, some of them enemies, some of them hypocrites, some of them friends. He has a large crowd that is following him. Coming out of the city is the woman who is in despair, and she is hopeless, and she too has a large crowd that is following her. Now, isn't it interesting that Jesus has a crowd that is following him that's not on the same accord, but the woman who is in despair has a large crowd who is coming out of the city who are feeling her pain, feeling her issue. Isn't it amazing that the sinners are on one accord and the church can't come on one accord? Isn't it amazing that the sinners they're coming out of the city? They don't even know Jesus, but they can feel her pain. They're coming out of the city and they're not saved, but they have compassion enough to cry for her. I wondered when the two crowds met at the gate, which crowd was bigger? We think we're doing something, Shep, because we got a few thousands who come into church. But there are hundreds of thousands out there in the city. And they're on the same accord. They're killing one another on the same accord. Drinking themselves to death on the same accord. Going to clubs on the same accord. They're doing everything they do on the same accord. We got big old crowds, but we're not on the same accord. If our crowd meets up with their crowd, I wonder who will have more momentum. If we took this crowd right here in the sanctuary, just those of you who are sitting here right now, if we just took this crowd right here, let's pick any community in the city. If we took our crowd and met them in their community, could we be on one accord enough that our crowd could transform their crowd, or would their crowd divide our crowd? Would we be unified enough, have the same spirit enough, have the same mind enough that when our crowd showed up, we look like we're on one accord. We talk like we're on one accord. We think like we're on one accord. Or would our crowd be divided before we even hit the city? The two crowds meet up at the gate of the city. And here is Jesus in the middle of two big old crowds. Problem with many of us, particularly preachers, y'all give me a few minutes. We're too consumed with the size of our crowds. Doc, how many people you seeing on Sunday? Doc, how many you carrying? Doc, how many members you got now? Doc. I'm sick of hearing doc, and ain't nobody healing nobody. Well, stop calling people doctor that ain't healing nobody. Stop calling people doc that aren't going to the sick, but they spend all the time with the well. Doc. All these doctors with no patience. All these doctors with no deliverance. All these doctors with no healing. Can't shake a tree now without a preacher who doesn't even want to be called reverend or pastor. Now he wants to be called doctor. But when you look at it, there's no healing in his hand. There's no deliverance in his mind. There's sickness he runs from. How are you going to be a doctor and you're scared of sickness? I feel like preaching. So all we are is consumed with the numbers. How many do you have coming? Well, I got a scoop for you. on any given Friday, the DJ has more coming to his crowd than you have to yours. I give you a scoop. On any given week, the drug dealer is running more than you're running. I give you a scoop. On any given week, the gang member is touching more lives than many of us are. I'll give you a scoop, Doc. The crowd is really in the city. The sickness is in the city. The death is in the city. The despair and hopelessness is in the city. And if we're going to touch it, we're going to have to come out of the four walls of the church and take the crowd to the city. The dead man is not going to come to you. I say that again. The dead man is not going to come to you. I repeat, the dead man is not going to come to you. You must go to him. I feel like teaching. The Bible says this, and this is profound to me, that Jesus in the midst of this large crowd was still able to see and feel the hurt of the woman. And the Bible said when he looked at her, he had compassion on her. On her. Can we be much like Christ where we can look past the issues and see the real victims? Look past the issue and see the one who is really hurting as a result of what's going on. We have become so callous, so cold, so desensitized as Christians that we can't really assess the issue. We can't look past the flagrant pain and see what's really at the heart of the matter. We can't get past the hype of church to see what's really happening in people's hearts. Jesus, I love, is never consumed with the crowds and the hype. He's always tapped in to the central focus, which is hurting people. Many people who profess to be Christ-like, let me help you right now. You're so far from where you need to be because you're too consumed with a crowd following you. And if a crowd ever followed you, you would never be like Jesus, because if they followed you, it would be all about you. But if you ever follow Christ and learn from his nature, no matter how big the crowd gets, no matter how many people, you understand it's never about you, not about your gift, not about your intellect, not about your anointing, not about your prosperity, not about your blessing. It's not about you, even when the crowd is all around you. Even when the crowd is around you, it's not about you. And many of us, if we had a crowd around us, it would never be about anybody else. And the reason why God will never let a crowd get around us is because we would infect the crowd with what is in us. And until he can get what is in us out of us, he will not let a crowd get close to you. You can beg him, plead him, you can try to hustle it and fix it up, you can try to maneuver it, but he will never let a crowd. He won't send the crowd to you because we're not healthy enough to help the crowd. Jesus realizes the way to help this crowd is to heal this woman's hurt. This crowd's about to learn something. Oh my God, I feel like he realizes the way to teach this crowd is to not avoid the issue, but to deal with the issue that is right before him. And see, that's what many of us do. Tough issues, and that's what the ceremonial religious church does. When there's a tough issue, we sidestep the tough issue. We walk around the tough issue. If it's politically incorrect, we don't touch the issue. If it's something that somebody says could potentially defile us, we're so busy trying to preserve ourselves that with the church is always avoiding issues. But if you're going to become like Jesus, when you see the issue, it ought to compel you. When you see the issue, it ought to draw you. If you really want to be like Jesus, the issue. I'm so sick of seeing a contemporary church that is unlike Jesus, because all of the issues that presume to defile us, we run from. The world, the city, is gathered together trying to heal themselves of HIV and AIDS. That's why they're having these benefits. That's why they're having these bazaars. That's why they're having World AIDS Day. That's why they're having all these things, because the one who ought to be addressing the issue is avoiding the issue. The one who ought to be speaking about the issue and dealing with the issue is sidestepping the issue. But if Jesus would ever get inside of us, do you not know that the HIV AIDS man is the modern day leper? They are begging us, saying, please, would you help us? Please, if you're willing, please, but we are sidestepping the issue. It is running through our community, killing our men, killing our women, moving into our children, and the church is silent. Hallelujah. Preachers won't preach about it. Good Christian folk won't talk about it. We leave that to the sinners.